Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of The Everything Club. Today is going to be probably one of my favorite episodes that we've done, given how recently the movie came out. We're going to be talking about Deadpool and Wolverine. At the time of recording this, I think it came out last weekend. And I went and saw it on Saturday or Sunday. One of the days in the weekend. It's fine. And I absolutely loved it, and I think the three of us, Keilan and George, feel the same way.
Yeah, I didn't really care for it. Actually, I haven't even seen it, so I have nothing
to
add.
I saw it yesterday just for this, actually, and I did in fact care for it. So I guess we'll get into that today.
So wait, if I got this straight, you only saw the movie not because everyone was saying how good it was, but because you had to watch it for homework?
Yes, absolutely. You're very much correct.
Love that. All right.
Good to know. I've seen the movie twice now. I saw it once in Chicago, and then I came back to St. Louis. By the way, listener, I just officially moved back to St. Louis. This is Keilan speaking, by the way. Let's introduce ourselves real quick.
I definitely forgot to do that in the intro, but it's all right.
For movies, music, books, and more, join Keilan, Noah, and George, your ultimate entertainment hub. Welcome to the Everything Club.
I am Keilan Morrissey, filmmaker, writer, now St. Louis resident. I always was, but then I moved to Chicago. Now I'm back. This is our first in-person podcasting session, boys. Who are you?
Listener, he is pointing to me. I am Noah Boeyink. I am an electrician. I have always been a St. Louis resident. I've never called anywhere else home. And I personally am very glad to have you back here in town, Keilan. It is a treat. We've hung out infinitely more in the past 4 days than we have since you moved to Chicago.
We've hung out like almost every day since I've been back, I think.
And it's been a blast. Who are you?
Absolutely. We won't, this particular episode, leak Keilan's new address to the entire internet. But just so you know, that may come in the future. My name is George.
George's gonna dox me live.
I will. And since Keilan does most of the editing, I don't know how much that's gonna make it to you, listener. But just so you know, I am trying. Anyway. Hi everybody. My name is George Mitrev. I'm an engineer, an entrepreneur, and a lover of all things pop culture. I'm really excited to be discussing the topic here today. Without further ado, I think we can jump into the first question round.
Well, hold on. By first questions, you mean how are we all doing?
Yes. Listener, I've been doing good. I've recently been on a bit of a health kick, including.
That's an understatement.
Including drinking healthy smoothies and not eating other foods. So like that's the two things. However, I have lost.
Yeah, you heard it here, listener. You should drink smoothies and nothing else. Consume nothing else.
No, you said eating foods.
This
ate some foods in there.
This isn't general health advice. I'm following my own regimen that I've designed from a macromolecular level, and it is yet to be determined if it is healthy. However, it has been wildly successful. We have. I am down 9 pounds in
2 days.
In a little over 3 weeks, and I consider that an incredible success. At least so far, if there are larger health ramifications, they have not yet presented themselves. This is not a permanent situation, and this is what I've been up to. This is my main activity.
Nice, bro. Well, we are happy for you on your health kick. Glad to see that you are getting the results that you are seeking. It is a bit off-putting when we're all hanging out watching a movie and we look over and you're Googling carrot juice, but we'll live.
I wanted to know.
If I could just chime in here, listener, I don't think you quite understand what is going on here with his health kick. All right, we all love Mexican food. We all love it.
Top tier
right.
cuisine.
Yes. We had tacos, and George got one. He got a taco.
But don't worry, listener. That wasn't all he ate for his meal. What else did you bring, George?
That's okay. I got it.
I feel as if I feel as if I might be being put on blast a little bit here, but
listener, he brought chopped cucumber and an apple.
I stand by that decision.
Meanwhile, Noah and I were shoveling churros.
Churros and a giant burrito. It was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Listeners, as a software engineer, I crave any opportunity to burn any kind of energy, and I'm doing my best. So yeah.
Hey, bro, we support you. We support you.
All good.
I've been doing well myself. As I said, I'm back in St. Louis. We're doing in-person pods. So yeah, please excuse any technical malfunctions that may or may not. Let's be real, they will occur on this recording. This is our first time recording in person. I'm just super hyped to be back in town with you guys. It's already been a blast the last few days, and we have many more adventures ahead. Noah, my man, how are you?
I am, all things considered, I'm doing pretty well. Today was a little rough at work. I have to get a new drill because I was drilling a hole and the thing started smoking. So that's not typically ideal, but it's all right. We're working through it.
And was that the drill or the hole, Noah?
Or you?
Noah is smoking, for the record.
I would like to also put on the record that I do not smoke. As is common in the trades, I do not partake in smoking of any kind.
That wasn't my implication.
No, I understand that, but I like to make that very clear.
Smoking is bad for your health, listener. Please do not smoke.
But yeah, no, I've thoroughly enjoyed the last 4 or 5 days that you've been back, and we've hung out literally 4 out of the 5 days that you've been back in town. Your apartment's coming along great.
Yep.
And I'm just gearing up for, I know it's a few months away, but the Halloween party, man.
Absolutely.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Listener, we are already planning our Halloween episode. This was literally in the talks before we started rolling.
Yes.
All right, but let's go on ahead and dive in, fellas,
Yes.
to our first question round. Listener, in case you're new to the podcast, I don't know why you would. We already have 3 listeners. That's like, I'm sure you're all here.
One of them is me.
I think those might be this table, Keilan.
No, my mom listened to an episode today.
Oh, good.
So one of us isn't listening. No, in case you're new to the pod,
I can show you my Spotify to prove it.
This is our first round, our first slice of bread in the sandwich that we call the Everything Club, and this is where we just toss out some light questions pertaining to the topic of Deadpool and Wolverine. So, you fellas mind if I toss one out for you?
Absolutely, go for it.
All right, Noah, I'm gonna hit you with this one.
No, thank you.
Okay, George, we're going to you. No, Noah. I gotta ask you. So, we had this crossover movie, Deadpool and Wolverine. This is one that fans have been wanting for a long time. Obviously, there's the real life bromance between Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. There's the fact that the characters are very intertwined in the comic books and the franchise overall. But I want to ask you, if you could greenlight a superhero crossover film within Marvel or DC that is perhaps a less likely or less expected pair of characters than these 2 mutants, what do you think would be a really interesting superhero crossover film to see? And we're not talking a team movie, we're talking just 2 heroes that equally carry a film.
Yes.
What you got?
So, one of my favorite heroes from Marvel, and I will admit, it wasn't until the Netflix show came out, but Deadpool. The Netflix...
You mean
Not Deadpool.
Daredevil.
Sorry, Daredevil.
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Sorry, I got Deadpool on the brain. Daredevil. Daredevil. Since watching the show and learning more about the character because I've been so interested, he is super cool. And I know he's already intertwined with like Spider-Man, and and in the show he gets in with like Punisher, and then there's the whole what is it called? The Defenders series. But I think one that might work really well is Daredevil with the Guardians of the Galaxy. I feel
That's so unusual.
I know, but I feel like adding his dynamic to the goofiness of the Guardians would be really interesting to see.
Yeah.
And kind of, it would be reminiscent of, Deadpool Wolverine, where Wolverine's just like, we got to just get this shit done. It's super serious all the time.
Yeah.
And Deadpool is just like, ha, fuck.
You just summed up the movie. I think let's power down these mics. I think we pretty much told the listeners everything they need to know.
So I think it would be a really funny, what's the word, dichotomy or not?
Dynamic
to see. It would be him exploring space as a blind man.
Oh my gosh. I feel like Drax would have some really funny things to say about
him and Drax would have some of the best interactions. And I can only hope that if they decide to add another movie to the Guardians series, then Daredevil would make an appearance.
In the comics, Iron Man temporarily joins the Guardians of the Galaxy.
That does not surprise me.
Yeah, he has like a whole like spacesuit design. Which I'm not
I guess
sure.
technically, don't we technically see that in Endgame?
Oh yeah, I guess so.
Because the Iron Spider is technically a spacesuit.
Yeah, and Iron Man's like on Titan and stuff. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, he was on Titan without his helmet on, so I think
That's true.
All right. Anyway, let's keep this moving. Okay. Oh, and we might want to put this at the beginning, but spoilers for those who haven't seen it.
Oh yeah, no, we should have been saying this on honestly every one of our episodes.
Yes.
Major spoilers alert.
This is a very recent movie. If you have not watched it yet, please go watch it. It is fantastic. But we will be spoiling pretty much the entire plot in today's episode.
Yes, and this is a film that is full of surprises, and the surprises make it a really fun experience. So I definitely recommend seeing it.
Yeah.
Seeing it first.
So George, I look forward to hearing your take on this question. Would you sacrifice nice pool for dog pool?
I think that nice pool needed to die.
Love that.
And dog pool deserves everything in this life. So that would be my answer to that.
So you don't think that nice pool provided everything dog pool deserved?
I don't think that nice pool provided everything that Marvel deserved. I think that we as audience members deserved better. And I think that we got that in the way that Nice Pool was dispatched from the movie.
Dispatched is a very kind way to put his gruesome murder.
He was brutally slaughtered. This is absolutely true. Keilan, I have a question for you. If you could have Wolverine's healing power or Deadpool's sense of humor, which would you choose or why?
Oh boy.
Okay.
Because I consider them both superpowers in their own right.
Well, they definitely are. I mean, Deadpool's sense of humor is like, I mean, it's on another level. His quick-wittedness and his ability to just whip out the perfect reference to absolutely anything.
Well, you got to remember, part of that humor is being able to break the fourth wall.
Well, is that included in the deal, George? Would I also get to break the fourth wall?
That's part of his humor.
Would I get to turn to the camera? I guess that assumes there's a fourth wall of life to be broken.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
That's a bit of a metaphysical question, which we can talk about later. But this is the light question round.
Okay. If we're going just sense of humor, perhaps I occasionally glance into another realm at the celestial beings that are watching us for their entertainment. I mean, Wolverine's healing factor is cool, but it certainly did not stop him from being miserable. In fact, I think it contributed to a bit of his miserableness.
What? No.
It would certainly be a beneficial ability to have if I was a superhero, if I was doing anything in terms of combat or putting myself in harm's way. But I do think I'm of the opinion that immortality and invincibility, I think we as a species are probably better off without having those. I think that there is something to be said about not having infinite life and whatnot. So I would honestly, I probably would go with the sense of humor. I think that'd be hilarious to be able to tap into that at any time and just have like the perfect thing to say always, and also his confidence because nobody in the movie is laughing at him. You know what I mean? Like it's only the audiences that are laughing. So to just like be on all the time and have that level of humor simply for your own enjoyment, I think that's the way to live.
I mean, if you're Deadpool, wouldn't you have that confidence? You know,
Honestly.
Like, you're walking around with katanas on your back and pistols on your hips. I mean,
True.
Absolutely, I agree completely, listener.
Geef, let me hit you with one more here.
Absolutely.
Okay, here's what I want to ask you. So the X-Men were acquired from 20th Century Fox by Disney. This is something that was referenced within the film and has been the topic of many pop culture debates on and off the internet. So my question for you is, with Disney now acquiring pretty much the entirety of Marvel, and they've also acquired other franchises, namely Star Wars, what is a franchise that you think could benefit from the Disney treatment? And what is a franchise that you think Disney should stay as far away from as possible?
That is a very deep, light question around kind of question.
maybe just choose one or the other, like one that would benefit, and that's it, or something.
Well, I think that there are like pros and cons to every single Disney treatment. I don't think that any franchise would get like all of the benefit, and I don't think that any franchise would get like any of the negatives either. See, it's difficult. It's difficult for me to do this because I want other franchises of mine, especially some of the like on the DC side. I would love to see a lot of DC movies having like the resources and like not even like the atmosphere of a kind of Marvel movie-esque creation. And I think that if some of those universes were to be brought into like the Disney kind of like ecosystem, I think that could be like generally beneficial in certain ways.
Yeah.
But I could also see how like a lot of products of like smaller companies and like smaller studios have their own like energy, and they have their own kind of atmosphere that I think would like probably be not necessarily lost, but definitely changed.
Right. You wouldn't want Disney acquiring A24.
No.
Yeah.
Like that would be ridiculous. And I think that like the one that jumps out at me right now, just mentioning the end of this, would be like something like Avatar, like Avatar: The Last Airbender, where I think that like if Disney were to acquire that and put like all of their might behind it, we might receive something, I mean, unbelievably amazing.
Yeah.
But that's only, again, if you have the right people within Disney behind it.
Right.
So like while I agree that like there's definitely some benefits to like bigger studio kind of like resources, I also want to be careful because oftentimes that can come at the expense of some creative vision.
For sure. Yeah, it's interesting because I think the Disney treatment kind of people associate it with kind of oversaturation. You know, like Disney acquiring Marvel and Star Wars, we've gotten a shit ton of both of those franchises. You know, like projects like you know Lucasfilm probably would have let Star Wars kind of fizzle out or sort of end after the classic saga, whereas Disney, is releasing a piece of Star Wars media pretty much any given month. There's always something coming out, and the same is true for Marvel. So it is an interesting thing that I think smaller studios and smaller franchises there's something that could be preserved by not selling to a bigger company, but also you talk about Avatar or even DC, which, I mean, DC is with Warner Bros., which, not to hate on my potential future employers, but
shooting for the stars.
So yeah, I totally hear what you're saying.
You didn't finish that thought.
What else was I talking about?
Absolutely nothing.
I mean, I support all movie studios that might one day hire me to direct a film.
That's a great point, listener.
This is your official pitch for yourself to go work at Warner Bros.
Hey Noah. Do you think do you think if Deadpool was like in the Star Wars universe, what character do you think that he would get along with the best?
Great question. Jabba the Hutt.
This is my question. Oh man. Get along the best with? I don't know. R2-D2. I think he would get along great with R2.
A wonderful point.
Because every beep that he makes, or every R2 sounds, he would just jump on that and be like, yeah, see? He would, no matter if he could understand it or not, he would just interpret it in his own way, and he would make himself get along with him.
I feel like Deadpool would bring out a level of sass in R2-D2.
Yes.
that we have not yet seen.
Yeah.
I feel like there's like a really sarcastic droid within him that Deadpool could bring out.
Yeah, I would. That would be great. I would love if R2 was just, super sassy,
Yeah. I feel like 3PO interacting with Deadpool could also be hilarious because he's like the most cautious, timid,
But I don't think they would get along the best because of that.
Yeah, they wouldn't get along the best, but it'd be a funny interaction to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like Deadpool with literally anybody would be hilarious.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. This is a segue. All right, get ready, listener, because we're gonna
Everybody brace yourselves for the segue of the century.
We're gonna talk about the movie now.
Smooth. Real smooth.
But I mean, really, that's what we're doing.
Yeah,
and
let's do it. Bring it on. What you got?
We're gonna get into the meat of the sandwich, the heartiness. All right, so we're gonna dive real deep into how we felt about this movie and our first impressions of it, and I guess Keilan's second impressions of it because he just had to go see it twice before the rest of us.
I'm just a thorough researcher for you, listeners.
And yet you didn't invite me.
I was taking out the lady for a
You
date
invited
night.
George.
Oh well.
I hadn't seen it for the record there.
Also, you had explicitly told me you weren't available.
Yeah,
that day,
So, I feel like we all share the sentiment. We've already said it this episode. We freaking love the movie.
Yeah.
It is, to me, it is the biggest hit that Marvel has had since No Way Home.
Yeah.
Since Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah.
And that is a long time.
No Way Home was 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other movie that Marvel has made that was as remarkable as these two in that time.
I will say
Specifically MCU.
Yeah.
Marvel, because the animated Spider-Man, which I desperately want to do an episode on,
Yes, we will. For sure.
is fantastic.
Yeah, Spider-Verse was one of the best movies of the past couple of years.
Yes,
for sure.
but the MCU, I haven't really found a reason to go back to watch an MCU movie until this movie.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Wakanda Forever. I like that one a lot. Although it was good for very different reasons than this.
I feel like a lot of the more recent Marvel hits haven't felt as much like other Marvel movies, mainly because they're trying to do different things. Like, I would argue that this wasn't the traditional Marvel movie. I would argue that this is more like a comedy which is set inside of a superhero movie.
Oh yeah.
Rather than a superhero movie that's advancing its own plot, as was like the traditional kind of MCU arc that we kind of grew up with. I would I think that is what like in part makes Deadpool so special. I think that Deadpool's a character that is allowed to break a lot of rules, and I think that accentuates the fact that he is not like the traditional superhero archetype, and it is not within the traditional structure of a superhero movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear cut that this is not a typical Marvel movie, you know, purely based on the statistic of it was a counter for how many times the word fuck has been said in the MCU, and the total is 118, and Deadpool had 117 of them.
Oh my god. I think it was Star-Lord, right?
Yeah, it was. I think it was Guardians. Was that Guardians 3?
Guardians 3.
You know, I haven't seen Guardians 3 yet. I'm just now realizing this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I haven't seen Guardians 3, so that might. Yeah.
Guardians 3 was really, really good.
All right, we're getting off topic.
Okay,
we can talk about that later. But
Listener, what the heck?
But yeah, that this is a very different direction that Marvel decided to take with this, and very, very well. It is good that they did that to keep with how Deadpool has been in the last two movies before he was solely a Marvel owned franchise.
For sure. I think, there was a lot of trepidation about what would come of Deadpool joining the MCU, because the MCU had no R-rated films. It leaned slightly more family-friendly compared to some of the Fox X-Men films that were more brutal, and especially the Deadpool films, which were hyper-sexual, vulgar, bloody.
Love it. Love all of it.
Exactly. So there was a lot of reluctance about Deadpool being acquired by Disney, but I think that there was a lot riding on this film because of that. You know, they had to stick the landing. They had to deliver a Deadpool that fans were familiar with, yet also bridged this gap and fit into the MCU seamlessly. And I think they nailed that.
Yes.
I was so shocked by how seamlessly Deadpool fit into this universe and how they were able to not only bring Deadpool into this universe, but really bring Wolverine and the X-Men lore into the MCU timeline and have it make sense. And I feel like this is a usage of the multiverse concept that makes sense, that works well, that doesn't feel like a cop-out. It actually, story-wise, I thought was great. The way that they brought in this version of Wolverine as opposed to the Logan universe. I thought like the use of the TVA as the ones that bring in Deadpool for this mission, and the way that they tie together all of the past Fox characters through the myriad of cameos. I just thought it was so impressive how well they bridged this gap between Fox and Disney, and what better way to do it than with Deadpool, the most self-aware character who can actually comment on this studio transition.
Right, and that is actually a perfect segue to to what I was thinking while you were saying that, is that he's able to, you know, in the beginning of the movie, he's incredibly self-aware that, like, how do you expect us, or how are we going to properly bring Logan back without completely ruining the ending of Logan? And he's like, we're not. So we're going to completely ruin it, and we know it.
Yeah.
And that is one of my favorite parts about Deadpool, is, like, as you said, he's self-aware. He's able to comment specifically on the studios themselves making stupid decisions.
Yeah.
But in this case, it worked so well for the movie.
Exactly.
I think that this is how the multiverse should have played out. Mm-hmm. I think that we are seeing the concept, basically beaten to death over the course of like so many different franchises, but especially like Marvel right now.
Yeah.
I think that it's been a bit of an escape hatch, I think, for a lot of different things. But I like when franchises like this are able to use a concept so ubiquitous and so flexible, like the multiverse, to do something that isn't necessarily incredibly shamelessly like ridiculous. And I think that this movie honestly reinvigorated my actual liking of the term multiverse, which in past years I have actually grown to distaste because of a lot of the stuff, because of a lot of the actions of other franchises.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think multiverse, there's kind of a stigma that it just means bringing back old actors for the sake of fan service. And, and let me tell you, this movie had an excessive use of fan service and cameos, but it was done so tastefully, and it was done in a way that made fun of itself. Because if they had done this without Deadpool, if it was just...
It's just
like,
another Wolverine movie or
something. If it was just like Wolverine in the multiverse and it was all these different characters, I feel like people would have been like, okay, we get it. You have the rights to all these characters now. Good for you. But because Deadpool, because of his humor and his commentary, I mean, he even poked fun in the right before the fight with the Deadpool Corps. He made that joke like, oh yeah, we've had nothing but hits since Endgame. He's like, the multiverse hasn't been overdone at all. and then his joke about like, oh yeah, Disney's gonna make Hugh Jackman do this till he's 90. There's even jokes about that, which when you can literally address the fans' chief concerns with your protagonist, I mean, that's a really unique situation. And I'm just glad that they did it in the way that they did.
And touching on that, I also think it's important to note that Deadpool is very unique. Not every movie can be like this, and it's important for us to treasure that for what it is, because while this is like a fantastic movie, every movie cannot be like this movie, like by definition. So this has to be a rare gem that we're like very excited about and that we appreciate. While acknowledging the fact that like we cannot expect every movie to rise to this level of introspection. If we expect any movies to exist at all, it's an important point that I think needs to be talked about a little bit more. Just how unique and special this character is, and what that allows them to do with this particular franchise and with this particular film.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest draws to Deadpool is that he is so unique. It almost feels like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, it really does.
Like no other movie in the MCU has called attention to how bad they have been lately. Every movie is trying to take itself seriously. Deadpool doesn't. And I think that's what hits it home for a lot of people, is that like it's just supposed to be goofy. Yeah. It's not all superhero movies have to be epic and big battles and stuff. And that's why Guardians of the Galaxy also did really well, because they're a goofy bunch. I think that's what a lot of people are missing nowadays, is that it's all so serious and all about the big explosions and the drama and the big bad at the end of the movie finally getting what he or she deserves. And Deadpool wasn't like that at all. It was just, this is funny. this is what the people want.
Right. And I would also add on to that the superhero movies coming out now that do try to take a more comedic angle often, to me, fall even more short than the ones that take themselves very seriously. Yes, there's the yep. George just mouthed the title of a certain film starring a Norse god, and they.
Hey, I liked that movie.
Love and Thunder.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was okay.
Okay.
Takes.
It wasn't the worst Thor movie, in my opinion. Thor: The Dark World I still feel like is below Love and Thunder.
Okay, let's open this up briefly. I don't think that Dark World deserves as much hate as it gets. I do think it was a smidge forgettable. I think that's a fair criticism of it, in that I genuinely don't remember much from the movie. However, I do remember it at least keeping in tone with the Thor franchise that had been established and had some good character growth for Thor and Loki and Odin. Whereas Love and Thunder to me felt like it was trying to duplicate the feeling of Ragnarok in its aesthetic and in its humor. And I love that director, by the way, Taika Waititi. I think he's fantastic. But Love and Thunder to me didn't quite carry the same essence of his humor and his style that Ragnarok did. It just felt a little bit watered down for me.
Gotcha.
And that would be my criticism of that movie.
I think that in a time where we've had so many high quality superhero
That's
films,
fair. Yeah.
that more or less, and we can argue this, follow the same general plot line, I think that originality has become almost like the sweetest nectar for the comic book fan.
Yes.
It's a real, at least for me, it's a real shame whenever I see a movie that was absolutely phenomenal, like unbelievable, like effects, unbelievable writing, unbelievable storytelling, everything like that. I can't find a single thing to complain about, except for the fact that I felt like I've seen that movie before because others like it have existed, and there are so many of them now that it almost cheapens every single new one out there. And I really wish that wasn't the case, but every time I see a new movie that like concerns like a superhero franchise, I almost watch out for the fact that it might be extremely similar to something else. Yeah. And it feels like a lot of times, and tying this back to Thor,
Let's see if we can find a way to tie it back to Deadpool.
that's a good point. We should do that sometime soon. I think that Thor: Love and Thunder tried to be a little bit more original, tried to break the mold a little bit, but they didn't do it in an organic way. They instead try to artificially insert it into the movie, where it almost felt like there was like a schism somewhere between certain like writers in terms of like the tone and things like that. But I think that Deadpool is an example of like one of the kinds of movies that are more original than most, and I certainly, in my opinion, has contributed to its extreme success. I think it's the number 4 or number 3 highest grossing so far in 2024.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah. I had something I was going to add to the Deadpool thing. With, like, this whole episode.
That would be a good idea. Let's do that.
Cut this out. Let me think. Keilan, start talking.
Okay, I did have something to add to that real quick. So yeah, and just to tie it back to the humor, my point with mentioning some of the other superhero films that have come lately from both Marvel and DC, for me, is that the humor feels, to use your own word, George, inorganic. It just it feels like we know exactly what we're getting. It has that kind of, you know where the punches are going to hit, or the punchlines are going to hit. You know where the tension is going to be broken, and they're going to say something funny. It's kind of a formula that's proven successful, and I think now audiences are getting a bit fatigued by it, and Deadpool is that interjection to the norm. Deadpool and whatever they have done, like Marvel, DC, if you're listening, whatever was done with Deadpool in terms of preserving the vision that the writers have and that sense of humor that seems to come a lot from Ryan Reynolds himself.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how heavy of a hand he has in the actual script writing, but like whoever's in charge of that writing department, hire them for more comedic superhero movies, because I think that the jokes are so like unpredictable yet also inevitable that they just land every time. And that's my thought on that.
Yeah. So I remember what I was going to say in that, like, even George, like you said, it's like it's not the same movie that we've seen 1,000 times, despite it being the third movie.
Yeah.
In the Deadpool movie series, like that is the most astounding part to me, is that this is a sequel to a sequel, and it still feels like I'm watching the first movie over again. Like it doesn't feel any different to me.
Featuring a character that has been played by the same actor for 20 years.
Yes.
and they somehow gave him even more depth and even more like meaning.
Yes.
You know.
For whatever reason, I guess because of the expert script writing and overall process or production of the film, it just feels so good to watch it.
Yeah.
You know, and again, despite it being the third movie in the Deadpool story, it doesn't feel like it's losing any steam.
Totally. And I want to say one more like meta thing on this topic before we get more narrow into some plot details. We're getting meta. And that's that. I think to what you were saying earlier, Noah, about a lot of films taking themselves very seriously and having these epic battles and explosions and whatnot. It's interesting that the epic and the intense parts are made more intense by including humor, by having organic humor. That firstly makes the characters feel more real, and then makes the stakes higher for the epic battles, but also creates more of a balance, more of a dichotomy between the two. Whereas if it's intense the entire time with no room for levity, then the intense scenes just don't hit quite as hard. And I think that the Deadpool films, as well as like the Guardians films, have that really great balance. And I've talked about this before. I've probably talked about this on other episodes of this podcast, but the humor intensity balance to me is something that in my work I'm always trying to strike, because I think it is so vital. And I think this film was no exception. It was done excellently. Anyways, what'd you guys think of Headpool?
Headpool?
Yeah. You know, the floating head?
Yeah, no, wasn't he used to beat someone else's, to beat another Deadpool?
Yep, he sure was.
I thought the use of body parts as fighting instruments had a strong emphasis in this movie, and it definitely led to some very dramatic things. I thought Headpool was very funny. I wish we learned more about him.
Yeah. He was. I remember when I was in like middle school and I first learned about Deadpool as a character from the comics, and I found out about the whole Deadpool core, and I just thought Headpool was such a funny character. I'm glad he got a little bit of limelight. The whole Deadpool core was cool. Did you guys have any favorite Deadpool variants?
Well, okay, that was one of my quick round questions, so I don't know why I went because that part's over. I mean, Dogpool.
Yeah, Dogpool was pretty great. I like when Dogpool put on the goggles and
his eyes just changed.
Suddenly had human eyes.
I noticed that for sure. I don't know if I had, like, other than Dogpool, I don't think I had a favorite. What I did like is how he got a bunch of, I know this happens often in movies, but like he got a lot of people that are personal to him in the movie.
Like Blake Lively.
Like Blake Lively. Yeah. Baby Pool was his baby, and Kid Pool was his kid. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But there's also like other people that he's worked with. Like Juggernaut was the body double for when he was like all big and buff and Free Guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
so like
funny.
Juggernaut is like big Ryan Reynolds and Free Guy.
Well, I wonder, is it the same?
It's the same.
As the original Juggernaut, though, like from the original X-Men films, because
No.
I assumed it was the same actor.
I don't know.
Maybe maybe he's both. Maybe he's.
That'd be sick.
Yeah.
But I mean, once again in Free Guy, Chris Evans was in it.
Yeah,
Chris
yeah.
Evans was also in this one.
Yeah.
So
kind of the Adam Sandler effect where it's just working with the same.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
and I like that.
Yeah.
I like that about Adam Sandler movies, and I like that a lot about this movie too. Is that
Yeah.
yeah.
See, I can't imagine making movies with a recurring cast that's just your friends. I just
No,
can't.
I mean, see, here's the thing. It works for some things. For niche, one-off stories, it doesn't work.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Really only works for massive franchises. You know?
Yeah.
If you're a high school
Sorry,
filmmaker.
George, do you have a picture
Don't even attempt
of the Deadpool gore on your phone pulled up right now?
Yes, I do.
You're
Yes, I do.
getting reference images so you can remember who all was in it?
I do, listener, and I was not expecting to get exposed but this is definitely what's going on. To be honest, one of my most favorite scenes was when Nice Pool got absolutely sacrificed.
Dispatched, as you say.
I thought that his sacrifice was perhaps one of the funniest parts of that movie for me.
When he goes, regenerate?
That was absolutely incredible. I love that more than most things. More than most movie moments of this year, and it's certainly one that I'll remember for a very long time.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Yeah, Nice Pool was hilarious. Okay, let's get into some of our other cameos because this was fucking rich in cameos. I thought, I mean, the first one was the Chris Evans, which I thought that the execution of that was amazing when they did the when he's like
the after credit
Avengers
scene.
flame up. Yeah, in the after credit scene. Yes. So good. Because when he first showed up, you know, you could tell he was a little de-aged, and you're like, okay, what's going on here? But then, the fact that he was the early 2000s Human Torch was great, and the fact that he was an actual character in the film, not just like a moment and then he's gone. The fact that he was, and then the way
Not like the Brad Pitt, like
in Deadpool 2 when he's Vanisher,
when he just dies on the power line.
Yeah. Yeah, the way that the cameos were the actual main characters of the film was crazy. Like they brought in Wesley Snipes' Blade, and they did Elektra and X-23 and all them, and then they actually became like they were part of the climax of the film. They weren't just blink and you miss it thing. So that was great.
Though the Henry Cavill was a blink and you miss it.
But that was great. That was fantastic.
Even then, he had one of the best jokes. He was like, "We will treat you so much better than they did over there."
Yeah, it is true. Henry has been abused by
Warner Bros.
the
DC.
great studio that, of course, has had some pitfalls. But who doesn't? We're all human.
Marvel is just now getting out of their slump, so.
Yep. Anyways, Henry as Wolverine would kill. I've also heard a lot of fan casts for Daniel Radcliffe as Wolverine because he has a much more grizzly.
Yeah.
Well, grizzlies. That sounds like a rude way of saying it. He's got the facial hair a bit scruffier nowadays.
Oh, okay.
And
I thought you meant the voice. I was gonna be like, absolutely.
Oh, no. And he's also a bit shorter, which they poked fun at that in the movie. That comic book Wolverine is very short.
Yep.
And so comic acting,
Short King Wolverine.
that was a great one in the multiverse as well. We also got Hulk in there for a quick second, which is
first I missed it.
Oh,
if I'm
really?
being completely honest, I had to go back and see clips online because people are already posting them.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, he was totally there.
Yeah, I mean, in the Void, everything was just rich with like references. I'm sure that I didn't get like many of them. I think that there were so many that, to be honest, I think most like flew over like the average viewer's heads.
Right.
But I think that like the big Ant-Man acting is like the base. I thought that was that was hilarious. I thought that most of like the Hulk was absolutely fantastic. I thought that the Thor inside of the TVA, I thought that was incredible. That was also brought up very like very very incredibly well throughout the movie, where they were just like, And what was going on with Thor there?
Yeah, exactly. Why was Thor crying?
Thor crying? Now, I think I heard something on the internet, so take this with a grain of salt, that one of the original pitches for the movie was to recreate parts of Thor the Dark World, like shot for shot, which I think might have been a reference to that first pitch, which is why he was so adamant about why is Thor crying. Because it could... I don't know how true that is. I also didn't look into it that much, but that's just something I saw online.
Interesting. That would be an odd choice.
It wasn't like a pitch. It was like one of the first ideas when they were writing Deadpool 3. Because it was like it was years and years of...
Yeah.
When did Deadpool 2 come out? Like
2018.
18?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I saw. I don't know how true it is. Like I said, internet is a crazy place, but...
Right. Yeah.
I kind of just accepted that as fact and was like, that's why he was crying.
Well. My thinking is that it's planting a seed for a scene that might happen in the upcoming Avengers films. Yeah, because you have Deadpool is actively trying to become an Avenger in this film, and then at the end of the film, kind of, it's established that he's become a more honorable man, and he's willing to do things to save other people, not just for his own self-interest.
Yeah.
And I feel like now that he's part of the MCU, I think. It's pretty much inevitable that he will be utilized in some of these other projects. Which also, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on how interesting it would be to have Deadpool in an Avengers film. I feel like, because we're getting Avengers Secret Wars, which I actually am very...
Is Secret Wars first or is Doomsday first?
Doomsday's first, and then Secret Wars. And I don't know what the plot will be for either. I'm very uneducated on Secret Wars as a comic book plot line, but my understanding is that it does bring in Avengers, Fantastic Four, and X-Men, which would be a really cool fusion to see.
Yeah.
I'm just really curious how they embed Deadpool into a film that will probably be PG-13.
If Deadpool's in it, it's not PG-13.
But that money though, you want kids to be able to see Avengers.
I think that it could be a situation much like Endgame, where they split like the main group into several separate subgroups, and then they follow all of those plot lines like semi-simultaneously.
Right.
In which case, like every time Deadpool is about to say something incredibly problematic, they could just cut to a different to a different plot line.
See, but that could be where we get our Daredevil, our Daredevil Deadpool. I would love that dynamic too.
Yeah.
May happen. I think that to be honest, think that is probably going to be the future of a lot of these bigger movies, as studios like struggle to try to pack more and more cameos and more like lovable characters to get people to like go out and like maintain the kind of revenue streams that they built on like the first big MCU arc. I think that we're going to be seeing a lot more of these films that are packed full of like separate plot lines that intertwine every once in a while, and it's just in a way that introduces more characters into the movie. I think that the struggle will be giving those characters each enough adequate screen time to feel like they are still in the movie.
Yes.
Right.
Because I think that an Avengers movie with Deadpool in it, but it's PG-13, so Deadpool can only be on screen for like 5 seconds before he says something crazy. Like Deadpool for like 3-second bursts, I don't think anyone would go for that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a challenge to see how studios will kind of adapt to that landscape.
Well, Deadpool also might be self-aware that it's a PG-13 movie, which could be a funny thing to play with. I feel like having Deadpool in these Avengers films, that there's a lot of talk about, if these movies will preserve the magic of the original Avengers films.
They won't.
What do you say?
They won't.
There's, will they live up to the hype with the whole, there's questions about the Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom casting. There's questions about, will this be nearly as cohesive of a story as Endgame, given how much this universe has kind of splintered in different directions and kind of lost a bit of the mainstream appeal. I feel like Deadpool, after how well he did in this movie, could be a really good character that kind of guides audiences through the complexity of it and makes it make sense in a very funny way. I feel like he might be, guys, and this is just a phrase I'm toying with, Marvel Jesus.
Dude, I don't know how you came up with that. That's good. That's really good.
That's a very good point.
But one thing that George, you hit on with that last one was making sure everyone got, the screen time, so you didn't forget about them. That is something that I have, to me, marks a fantastic end to a story, because that only ever happens at the end of a story.
Yeah.
Like Endgame, Infinity War and Endgame, both fantastic movies.
Yeah.
Some of the I think 2 of the highest grossing movies of all time. Not the top 2, but up there, in the top 5. I think both of them.
Yeah, Endgame made it to 1, but then they re-released.
Yeah,
Avatar.
we don't need to. Yeah, that's
So cheeky, listener.
But the other one that comes to mind that I absolutely loved was Avatar: The Last Airbender. During Sozin's Comet, the team all split up.
Yes.
But we still understand, or we still got to see enough of each one where it all made an impact on us.
That is a really good comparison that I haven't thought of.
Yeah.
And that's very true, and I agree. That's awesome. When each character gets their own very satisfying conclusion to their arc,
Yeah.
and it's all woven throughout one grand finale, that's...
But it doesn't feel like they're all separate
right.
story. It's all coming together as...
Yeah, because it's all one kind of meta conflict, whether it's Fire Lord Sozin Fire Lord Ozai and Sozin's Comet, or whether it's Thanos eradicating the universe. It's having the meta conflict, but then everybody also has their own independent journey.
Yeah,
I totally agree. Anyways, boys, anyone feeling like a segue?
Guys, this is a segue.
That was so smooth. Listener won't know what hit him. Well, before we get into our last little slice of bread.
There actually is one more thing I wanted to talk about.
I was just going to ask if anybody had one more thing they wanted to talk about.
No.
Okay,
actually,
good. Anyways.
So there was a potential plot hole a very glaring plot hole that potentially happened. It didn't happen. But if what the TVA had said was true, it would have just ruined the whole story. Was that the whole reason Wolverine is in that universe is to become an anchor being for that universe.
Right.
If he had gone down and eradicated himself to save the universe, it would have just ended it regardless because there's still no anchor being.
Wait, if he had eradicated himself, what do you mean?
So when they went down to do the thing, if he was able to do it on his own like he wanted to, it would have completely ruined the story because there still would have been no anchor being in that universe.
Well, while I agree that would have been an issue, I think that would have been a moot point in precisely 10 minutes because the universe would have been destroyed already.
But that's what I'm saying. No matter what, they got lucky because they both did it. Both of them could do it like they did in, like they did with the Space Stone and Power Stone.
Yeah.
Which one's purple?
One of the stones.
one of the stones in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, I think Wolverine's motivation though was for his work for the X-Men.
Well, it was redemption. Because he wanted to be able to save the world, he wasn't able to do in his own universe.
Well, he was trying to save Deadpool's universe, right? And so his universe, had he died, would have been eradicated. But his motivation, was he even aware of the whole anchor being theory? Because I thought his motivation was just to save Deadpool's universe so that he could talk to the TVA and get them to reverse the people that died in his universe previously.
Can they reverse people that died?
That's what that was his educated wish.
Oh, okay.
which didn't end up happening.
Right. Well, so I don't think intention has anything to do with it. I think that if Wolverine had gone down there and done it himself and successfully stopped Deadpool from helping him or whatever and did it, there's still no anchor being. The universe still would have ended.
For Wolverine's universe, yes.
No, for Deadpool's universe. That's the whole reason why Wolverine is in Deadpool's universe, so that they had a new anchor being. Because
you're right. Okay, listener, I had something backwards in my head. So disregard whatever I said before. I'm now caught up.
I also think that they didn't really explain why Deadpool's universe regenerated. They just said that it did. It might have been because Wolverine was there, but also like because of the Time Ripper, that might have done something as well. I don't think that we know for sure that it was Wolverine.
Maybe Deadpool became the new anchor being?
Either. Maybe. I honestly don't know how any of this works. I think that the fact that they didn't explain it might have been a...
None of us know how the Time Variance Authority works.
I think that the fact that they didn't explain it probably means that they wanted it left up to a bit of interpretation. And
well,
what
they had confirmed that Wolverine was the anchor being for Earth 616 or that whole universe, and that.
Well, hold on, no, because wait.
That's why they were. So he was gonna end it. He was gonna end that universe regardless, unless he could get a new anchor being, which is why Deadpool went out and got a Wolverine.
Okay. I'll be real. I'm a little confused on a bit of the universes because my understanding is that Earth 616 is the MCU timeline.
Yeah.
Where like he went and talked to Happy and all that.
Yeah.
Right? So when did that become Deadpool's universe?
You're right. I think I got that mixed up.
Because
they were like
because it's not MCU.
100 something.
Yeah. Sorry, I got the numbers mixed up in my head.
Yeah, MCU is 616. They were in like Earth 10,000 something.
That's where like his girl and Colossus and Peter and all them is from that. Okay.
Yeah.
That was that. I think that unless I'm remembering
You're talking very far away from your microphone.
Unless I'm remembering something wrong, I believe that they had mentioned that universes decay at incredibly slow rates, and that the Time Ripper was meant to accelerate the process. So it might have been that Deadpool's universe would have probably still collapsed, but I think they threw out some absurd time frame as well, like he would have been long dead.
Oh, it was definitely several thousand years.
Okay, well then I think that, like, in that case, the most important thing would probably be to eliminate the Time Ripper.
Well, yes, but even then, the whole plot of it was to get a new anchor being. That was the whole reason for the entire story, was so that his universe wouldn't decay.
Bro, I don't watch Deadpool for the plot.
I watch it for the sexy Honda Odyssey fight scenes.
Exactly. Dude, okay. I just want to say before we move on to our last segment that a lot of the time stuff really confused me. I'm gonna be real. Especially the anchor being stuff, the different timelines. I was confused on when and how he ended up in Earth 616 as opposed to the Fox X-Men universe. Definitely confused on the point that you bring up about Wolverine dying. How is the universe still there? Also confused on how Logan dying would have messed with Deadpool's universe, because it's very much established in Deadpool 2 that he is in the X-Men First Class timeline, and Logan dies like 100 years after that. So I just don't really get how his death causes the decay of that universe, unless time is not linear, which it seems like it is.
The answer is multiverse.
Good point. And with that, let's get into our deep question round. Anybody got one that's just burning on the tip of their tongue?
I do. I have one, and we kind of tapped on this topic earlier.
Okay.
Who wants the question? I'm cool with asking either of you.
I'll take it.
All right. So the
Wee-wee.
question is the wee-wee. Does this movie add to the Skrull controversies and give an explanation or an excuse to bring back old characters? Like, do you think that a big reason why they're doing this, or why they're doing the multiverse and all this stuff, getting anchor beings and all that into one universe, is so they can go back and like do what they did with Robert Downey Jr. and hire him back so that he can still play in the universe, but just a different person because it's a different variant.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to say if that is the driving intention, because the multiverse is a concept that has been in the comic books, both Marvel and DC, for a long time, and obviously when it's written into comic books, it has nothing to do with bringing back actors and stuff.
Right.
It's actually genuinely used as a storytelling device. In our DC fan films, which you should check out at Keilan.com, we also utilized the multiverse concept. George is banging his head in the wall, literally. We utilized the multiverse concept to do some pretty cool things, like that one time where on the street that we're actually on right now, me and Noah did this scene where Batman kills the Joker, which was pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
He saw I was a better Joker than him and said we had to kill the franchise.
you trying to throw hands, bro? I take my Joker
I'll
role with
throw some
pride.
of those. Let's do it. Let's go right now.
No, but so it definitely has potential to be used as a storytelling device without the kind of classic just let's bring back some fan favorite actors. But then you do get like the return of Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom, which has been widely criticized as a kind of a cash grab or a kind of a
fallback.
A fallback, like, yeah. Which, again, I'm conflicted on that. I think there's definitely potential for that.
Oh, absolutely. I actually look forward to it.
Yeah, I think I'm very eager to see what Robert Downey does with that role and how they do it. But so my answer would be I don't think it is the primary reason that the multiverse is being included. I think it's kind of an inevitable plot point with the trajectory of these movies. But I definitely think it's also inevitable that the studio will kind of exploit the concept to bring anybody and everybody back that they want to. I feel like that is a very real possibility, and I just hope they continue to do it tastefully and with an awareness of what they're doing, as they did with this film. Yo, George.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. So, Deadpool and Wolverine, and the Deadpool films in general, have been notorious for their excessive violence, which you may or may not have noticed in this film with the brutal dispatching of Nice Pool, and also the opening sequence in which Deadpool murders a bunch of TVA officers using Wolverine's adamantium bones. There's a lot of decapitations, a lot of guts spilled. I want to ask just kind of a broader question. What do you think are the implications in our society of this sort of desensitization to intense violence, especially in a comedic film such as this, where death and blood is almost used as a comedic gag? And you see this also in a lot of horror films where it's really used just for shock value or for entertainment. And for the record, I'm not one of those people who's like, we shouldn't have any violence in movies, like it's ruining our youth. But I am just curious because it does seem like we're getting further and further down this road where like beheadings and anything and everything flies. And I'm just curious what effect you think that has on American audiences.
I wish so much that the critics that describe the issues that you are representing right now were not so incredibly extreme, because then I could absolutely agree with them.
Yeah.
I think that we are seeing a level of extremity in terms of like sheer gore that I don't know if I have ever quite seen before. There's always been like death and beheadings and all of that in film, but before this more like post, I'm not exactly sure what to even call it, but the current era of cinema that we're in, that's more heavily focused on like special effects. I think before we were in this particular era, it was used more as a story point or a way to describe an idea. Like someone would have a violent end, and that would be like the consequence of having a unjust life, or like the big bad would have some extreme negative conclusion, and that would be entirely, and that would be like everyone would have that sense of like, yes, he got what he deserved. I think that now when Deadpool, for example, unleashes a level of brutality that is very entertaining, but at times, to be completely honest, maybe even a little bit disturbing towards some random person,
Right.
That's just like attempting to zap him with a little stick or whatever.
Yeah, like these people just trying to do their job. Like,
No. I mean, I understand that they're like enforcers of this evil organization, but I think that, I mean, beating someone to death with a human spine in slow motion,
That's peak cinema right there.
and I believe that it does desensitize us, and I think that in superhero films, when done with the correct tone, I think that it can actually be very educational. I think that the way that series like The Boys does violence, I think is incredibly humanizing.
yes.
And I think that is starkly different than what we're seeing here right now. So I don't believe that violence is necessarily a tool for desensitization. I think that, especially in superheroes, the lines are incredibly blurry. But I think that, especially in other genres of cinema and other genres of storytelling, I think that the use of violence can be incredibly destructive and incredibly desensitizing, not only to death, but also to the human condition. When I'm seeing like some random movie on Netflix where some like character takes out a 50 caliber machine gun and starts blowing people away as if they're like made out of like confetti, I think that, to be honest, has incredibly more of a negative impact than I see the superhero genre doing, especially when we have those kinds of grounding forces like The Boys and like other of these more like humanizing superhero narratives.
Yeah, great point, dude, about The Boys. That's something we could cover in another episode. I think that the usage of violence and just it opens a whole can of worms about, because it really opens your eyes to the fragility of the human body, but it also, The Boys is something that comments on systems of power and oppression and how, you know, those in power can so easily destroy those without. And I think there's definitely messages to the violence, and yet and still it can be so unsettling and so disturbing to see. So that's definitely something I'd like to touch on more. Sorry, listener, got some music coming from outside, but we're gonna keep it going. George, go on ahead and ask our dear Noah something.
Absolutely, Noah. I was wondering if you could tell me. This is a bit of a funny question.
Not.
How? I think that what's not being talked enough about in this film is how Deadpool and Wolverine explore the theme of friendship. The theme of friendship and human connection. And the idea of using human connection to overcome some kind of challenge. I think that some of the most challenging parts of the movie were overcome, especially like in the climax, but also like throughout, in the rising action, through human connection. And I think that human connection played a very important part in advancing the storyline and advancing the film as a whole. So I was wondering if you could comment on that and let me know your thoughts. How does this film explore those themes?
Okay, thank you. definitely needed that. Well, I mean, you I feel like you kind of delved into how it explored those themes already, but I mean, I guess where my mind went to was when they were down in the what is it, the positive matter or the negative matter or whatever. You know?
Wasn't it just matter and antimatter?
That's what it is. Yeah. It was matter or something.
It matters, Noah.
That was good.
Thank you.
It does. We've made it as people. Antimatter, I mean.
We can touch on that later.
Anti-monitor. Anyone? Sorry. Go on.
So, like, if we're going in the literal sense of human connection, you know, they they physically could not have done that on their own. Otherwise, they would have been killed. But together, they did it. Like, they survived purely because they quite literally made a connection.
True. Yeah.
Between themselves.
That was an epic sequence, by the way.
It really was.
That was just insanity.
Deadpool had the same reaction that everyone in the theater had when all of Wolverine's clothes just got sheared off. Man. But I'm gonna be honest. I'm blanking on a better answer for this question. So I mean, in the most literal sense, you know, that's how it explored the connections between people. I mean, other than that, I wouldn't necessarily call them great friends. They were kind of just bickering. Wolverine was just kind of putting up with Deadpool's antics the whole time and just being pissed off. So, I mean, there was an element of teamwork there that, you know, I feel like some parts was just there because they needed it to get done, not because they're like, we're friends, let's do it.
I think that at the end they built a friendship, especially at like the last few minutes.
Yeah, I think so.
Even though they
Or at least-
ended
or at
off
least
after
the
this one,
beginnings.
like, I'll see you later. He said, fuck no.
Well, yeah, I think there was some level of bond was formed for sure. I mean, I like they at the beginning wanted to kill each other. Well, really for 90% of the film wanted to kill each other, and then
It wasn't until the very end where they were like, you know what, this guy's all right.
Yeah, and I think it was that moment in the chamber with the matter and the antimatter where each of them was willing to sacrifice themselves.
Right.
For the greater
I think
good.
that's really what sold Deadpool to Wolverine was that, like, he's not always just this mouthy guy.
Yeah.
He's actually willing to make a sacrifice in order to keep things the way he needs them to or wants them to.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what he didn't get to see that at any other part in the movie because Deadpool was just like, this is funny and I want this dog, so I'm going to do whatever it takes to get the laugh, you know?
Exactly. I also liked Wolverine's semi-tender moments with Dogpool. like when he carries him, I thought that was great. I'm like, yes, this is the pairing I need.
Yes.
Yeah, I think even like superhero lore aside, I thought that having just pairing these two like unkillable beings with who have processed their traumas and their
very
difficulties
different ways.
in massively different ways. I thought it's just a cool concept in general. I like the idea of immortality as a trope in stories, and I thought that having the two most iconic, like kind of immortal or unkillable characters with basically the same power set, interacting and trying to kill each other relentlessly and knowing that they can't, just unleashing full force against each other was cool. Not really an answer to the friendship question, but definitely a cool thing to see.
Yeah, I really feel like their friendship only really truly started at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say, this being in person, I know this is always meant to be more of a relaxed thing, even online, but this really did feel like just a genuine discussion that we normally have. Whereas on the computer or like through Riverside that, God willing, we never have to use again.
Listener, we hate Riverside.
As a future employer, possibly we like you, but as of right now, no.
Yeah, listen, Riverside, if you ever hire me to direct a film, if you ever start dabbling into superhero media, I'm your guy. But for now, definitely got some bugs to work out with the recording. Anyways, thank you, listeners, for joining us on this episode of Everything Club. It's been a pleasure. I've been your host, Keilan Morrissey. This is Noah. This is George. We've just had a great time chatting it up with you. Well, not with you, just kind of, someone take over. Go, Noah.
We are also hosts. We were also hosted this episode. He is not the only host. I'd like to make that clear.
I listed both of your names just now.
Yeah, you said, I am your host, Keilan Morrissey.
I thought I listed your names right after that.
Either way,
let's take this outro from the top, listeners. that was a hard.
It's
fumble.
going in. It's going in. It's going in.
Listeners, it's been real.
I
Thank you.
liked the last one better.
Thank you for listening.
Can we do the last one?
Thank you for
I want
listening.
you to include the last one more.
Thank you for listening to this podcast where all three of us have hosted this delightful conversation
in equal parts.
in equal parts. I'll keep it in there. I'll keep it in there for the bit.
Just use you can use the word hosts.
He did say that.
Yeah, I just said
Just
that.
now.
Yeah. Oh boy, this is gonna be a messy last 60 seconds of this thing. Okay.
Thank you everybody for listening. We look forward to having you back next week on our next episode. We might talk about something else. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe
But,
the same thing.
Very possibly. We might even forget that we even recorded an episode on Deadpool and Wolverine.
Exactly.
So
It
look
happens.
forward to Deadpool Wolverine Part 2/Part 1.
One thing's for sure, there will be content.
We will continue monetizing our friendship. Don't you worry about that. One thing you can count on: we're not having a discussion unless it's content. All right.
Forever and always.
All right. Peace out, listener.